Hello viewers and listeners. Welcome once again to Salida, TeleRadyo from La Filipina National High School. I am your teacher host, Teacher Faith Perocho. And this afternoon, you are going to learn expanding outlines from primary and secondary sources with your teacher broadcaster, Teacher Catherine Amor Semblante. And I will turn you over now to Teacher Cathy.
Good afternoon, students, parents, and listeners, and welcome to our lesson this afternoon. I am very honored and glad because despite the pandemic that we are all facing, we will still be able to discuss and deliver our lessons to you through Salida, TeleRadyo, which also be aired on 98.3 Gold FM, Kuya, ano? So this afternoon class, our topic will be about synthesizing essential information found in various sources. And our objective for this afternoon is to use information from several sources to create new ideas. And the second objective is to create essential information found from various sources. So let me ask you, how are you? How are you despite the global pandemic that we are all facing? I hope that you are all well. Let me ask you this question. What are the things you have experienced regarding COVID-19? And what are the things you have heard from a COVID-19 patient? This time, I want you to get a pen and a paper. I will be giving you time to write down 2 experiences you experienced firsthand about COVID-19 and another 2 for the experiences you heard from others. So on a clean sheet of paper, list down at least 2 experiences, if there's any, that you have experienced firsthand about COVID-19. And another 2 for the experiences you heard from others, especially those people who tested positive for COVID-19. Are you ready? So I'll be giving you time now. Get your paper and ball pens. Again, don't forget, you're going to write 2 experiences you have experienced firsthand about COVID-19 and another 2 for the experiences you heard from other people, especially those people who tested positive for COVID-19. Are you done? Okay, please keep your papers first because you're going to use that later. Now, we will be differentiating a primary source from a secondary source. Do you have any idea what's the difference of a primary source and a secondary source? Later on, you will find out. So this time, again, please get your ball pen and paper, and I will be reading 5 sentences. You are going to write primary if you think the source came from a primary source, or secondary if you think it came from a secondary source. Are you ready? For statement number 1, a Philippine veteran talking about the Japanese colonization of the Philippines in 1940s. You are going to write primary or secondary. A Philippine veteran talking about the Japanese colonization of the Philippines in 1940s. Statement number 2. A classmate giving a report about Jose Rizal's life. A classmate giving a report about Jose Rizal's life. Is it from a primary source or secondary source? Just write primary or secondary. For statement number 3, a COVID-19 patient sharing her experience when she tested positive. A COVID-19 patient sharing her experience when she tested positive. Is it primary or secondary? For statement number 4, your teacher teaching about the importance of honesty and timeliness. Your teacher teaching about the importance of honesty and timeliness. Is it primary or secondary? And for the last statement, Statement number 5. A schoolmate telling you what she had read in the book about Philippine history. A schoolmate telling you what she had read in the book about Philippine history. Is it primary or secondary? Are you done? Please keep your papers first because we're going to check that in a while. So now, let's learn the difference of primary source and secondary source. A primary source is an information that was created at the same time as an event or by a person directly involved in the event. The keyword for a primary source is directly involved. So you can have that information if that person is directly involved in the event. For secondary source, a secondary source is an information from someone else or by a person not directly involved in the event. Meaning to say, if that someone or if the information came from a person who was not directly involved in the event. So that's the difference of a primary and a secondary source. Again, a primary source is the source of information has a direct involvement in the event, while a secondary source is the person or the source of your information is not directly involved in the event. Your task 2 is to check your background knowledge about primary and secondary. I know that some of you have already an information or background knowledge about secondary and primary sources. So let's proceed with these examples. From a primary source example, number 1, my mother told me her experience when she gave birth to me. So this is an example of a primary source because your mother had a first-hand experience in giving birth to you. Meaning to say, she has a direct involvement in the event and that event is giving birth to you. So this is an example of a primary source. Sentence number 2. I shared to my best friend what I felt when I was bitten by a dog. So, obviously, this is an example of a primary source. Why? Because you, as the sharer of that event, is the primary source of that because you have a first-hand experience or you are directly involved in the event. You have been bitten by the dog. So you have shared to someone or to your best friend what you have felt when you have been bitten by the dog. Next, from a secondary source examples. Statement number 1, my teacher explained the heroism of Andres Bonifacio. Basically, this came from a secondary source. Why? Because I'm sure that your teacher is not yet born during the time of Andres Bonifacio. He or she might only have read stories or articles about Andres Bonifacio, but he or she is not directly involved about the life of Andres Bonifacio. Is that clear? For statement number 2, I have read from a Facebook post shared by a netizen the real danger of every frontliner. So this is an example of a secondary source because you are not directly involved in the real danger of every frontliner as well as the netizen who shared that post. Meaning you both have no involvement or direct involvement in the danger that every frontliner is facing every day. Okay, are my examples clear? I know that these examples are clear enough because it's very easy to distinguish primary and secondary sources. So now, I want you to get the paper and let's check honestly. Please be honest in checking your answers. For statement number 1, a Philippine veteran talking about the Japanese colonization of the Philippines in 1940s. If your answer is primary, then you've got it correct. Why? Because when you say veteran, it is synonymous with experienced or someone in layman's term kanang daghang experience. He or she is kanang kabalo na or naka-experience na ani ng mga butang. So, basically and obviously, a Philippine veteran talking about the Japanese colonization of the Philippines in 1940s is a primary source of that event. Meaning to say, he has a direct involvement on the Japanese colonization during the 1940s, or he might have witnessed what happened during that time. So congratulations if you got it correct. For statement number 2, a classmate giving a report about Jose Rizal's life. If your answer is secondary, then you've got it correct. Because surely, your classmate has not yet been born during Jose Rizal's time. Maybe he or she have already read about Jose Rizal's life in an article or any reading material. For statement number 3, a COVID-19 patient sharing her experience when she tested positive. Obviously, this is a primary source. So if your answer is primary, then you've got it correct. Because the one who told you about her experience when she tested positive is a COVID-19 patient positive. For statement number 4, your teacher teaching about the importance of honesty and timeliness. Again, basically, this is a primary source, or if your answer is primary, then you've got it correct too. Because your teacher might be sharing his or her personal experiences about honesty and timeliness. For statement number 5, a schoolmate telling you what she had read in the book about Philippine history. Just like statement number 2, surely your schoolmate has not yet been born during the time of Japanese colonization, Spaniard colonization, and American colonization. So, her source is about the Philippine history book. So maybe she had only read it from a reading material about Philippine history, so he or she has no direct involvement in the event. So, how's your scores? If you got 5, then congratulations. Now, let's proceed. Open your self-learning modules on page 10, but I know that you already have read this story because your modules have been distributed ahead of time. So, let's read again. The Korean dramas continue to captivate the Philippine history by Jonathan Hiccup. So, I know that you have already read this one, so I only have here important and vital details about the selection. Okay, I have here, Korean drama started when radio broadcasting started in Korea in 1927 under the Japanese rule. So, this is one of the vital information or details about Korean dramas. The next one is in 56 rather, TV broadcasting began in South Korea and stage plays or novels were adapted. In 1990s, K-drama were introduced and many of these K-dramas became popular throughout Asia. In 1997, the Korean wave began. And when 2002 entered, Winter Sonata was a huge success in Japan, while in the Philippines, Korean teleseries became very popular in 2000s. And some of the famous K-dramas that were popular in Philippine television were Stairway to Heaven, Full House, Lovers in Paris, My Girl, That Winter the Wind Blows. So, there are still a lot of Korean dramas nowadays that are very famous in Philippine television. You have the Descendants of the Sun, The Doctors, King Eternal Monarch, and many more. Filipinos love Korean novellas or Korean dramas because it is relatable to their experiences and it's very touching and moving. So, I have only laid here some of the important details I've gotten from the selection that we have read, or the selection entitled Korean Dramas Continue to Captivate the Philippines. So now, I will be introducing to you the strategies or the different strategies and ways to synthesize and create essential information from various sources. The first method is the REST method. Just to remember, REST. R is to read two different sources about the topic and record ideas. E stands for edit notes and combine concepts that are similar. S stands for synthesize by combining notes with what you already know about the topic. And T, think about your new ideas and connect them to what you already know. So in the REST method, you need to read two different sources of a certain topic in order for you to gather information before you can proceed in creating various information. Next one, you're going to edit the notes and combine concepts that are similar. So meaning to say, you may have read something from a certain book and from another from a reading material, and you're going to combine the two similar concepts that came from those two sources. S, synthesize by combining notes with what you already know about the topic. So meaning to say, you're going to combine what you have already know and what you have gathered from the two books you have read or any two sources you have read. And T, you're going to think about your new ideas and connect them to what you already know. So meaning to say, I know that when you read a certain book, two different books, you will really gather, you will be informed with new ideas. So you're going to connect the new ideas to what you already know, and you're going to combine them before you can create or before you can synthesize various or essential informations from different sources. The next one is the add method. If you are struggling with synthesizing, you can use this method. Add is similar to rest, but add is simpler and easier done than rest. But it can be used with just one text because you can only use one text, unlike the rest method that you need to read two different sources. But in add, only one book is allowed or required. The advantage of add is that it will help you learn to integrate your learning with what you already know and your discussion with your classmates. And A, it stands for what you already know about the topic. D, what you learned during the reading on the same topic. And another D, what you learned during the discussion of the topic. So meaning to say, if you've read something or you've gathered information out from that book or your source, you can create questions. You can ask your classmates and friends who have already read also that book, and then you can combine your knowledge. And then after that one, you also combine what you have already know, your background information regarding that topic, and then you may write now your essential information from the two various sources. And the next strategy or method is the wrap strategy. R stands for read, A stands for ask, and P stands for put. Read, ask, put in my own words is a flexible three-step strategy that students use to improve reading comprehension through questioning and paraphrasing. So this is usually and commonly helpful for students like you because after reading, this is to test your reading comprehension. And after you read a certain source or a certain reading material, you may ask questions and you may paraphrase also the words and the statements. In asking questions, you can gather answers from your classmate that is far different from your answer. So meaning to say, your classmate might have this idea, you might have that idea, and then you can combine the two ideas in order for you to create essential information. Do you get it? Okay, in wrap, students read a passage or text and then ask questions to help summarize what they have read in their own words. So this is again what I have told you. Maybe your classmate have understood this way and you understood that way, and then if you're going to combine the two, then you can create the essential or vital information out from that source. So you are now creating or synthesizing a new topic out from your sources. Is that clear? Okay. I have here a sample of synthesizing using the ADD strategy based on the selection being read. So we've read the story, Korean dramas continue to captivate the Philippine television. So I have here, I created a new topic. I created a conclusion about that selection using the ADD. So I have here, Korean dramas are loved by many Filipinos because of its unusual storyline, funny and engaging plot, and effective characters. So you did not read it from that selection. I combined the information I've gathered from that selection from what I already know and from what I've read. So this is my new information that Korean dramas are loved by many Filipinos because of its unusual storyline, funny and engaging plot, and effective characters. Am I right? We all love Korean dramas because of the engaging plot and effective characters, right? Do you agree with me? Okay, so now I want you to get another sheet of clean paper and then you're going to answer your assessment. Using either rest method or add method, REST method or ADD method, you're going to choose either of the two. Create a new idea about COVID-19 vaccination called as Bakuna. So I know that you already have background information because you have heard from the television, the news from TV, or if you read articles from social networks, from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can hear something about the COVID-19 vaccination from friends, relatives, your families. So you need to combine the information you have gathered from your different sources. And you're going to create new idea about the COVID-19 vaccination called as Bakuna. I want you to write that on a clean sheet of paper, and you will be rated with the following rubrics. Content, you will be given 3 points if all answers are related to real-life experiences. 2 points if some of the answers are related to personal events. 1 point if not related to personal accounts at all. And for the mechanics, 3 points if there's no grammatical errors. 2 points if you committed 1 to 3 grammatical errors, and 1 point if more than 4 grammatical errors has been committed. Okay, good luck, students. And for your assignment, using the RAP strategy, create a 2-paragraph explanation to this question. Mean to say, you're going to use the RAP strategy, the read, ask, and put into words. And you're going to create a 2-paragraph explanation to this question. Following the new normal, as a student, what can you contribute to lessen the number of COVID-19 positive cases? Again, following the new normal as a student, what can you contribute to lessen the number of COVID-19 positive cases? You may post your answers on your social media accounts and send a screenshot of it to your English teacher for the rating, following the same rubric we have in the assessment. I hope that you've learned something from me this afternoon. And before I bid goodbye, I'm going to leave you with this quote. Honesty is the first chapter of the book Wisdom, from Thomas Jefferson. And before anything else, before we end this session, I want to thank my editor, Ma'am Faith Perocho, and Ma'am Melky Cervera de la Serna for the introduction, and also for the people behind this afternoon session, Ma'am Joy de Cripito and Ma'am Karen Lacson. Thank you very much, students, and see you again some other time. Goodbye and God bless.
Wow, that was great! Thank you so much, Teacher Kathy. And thank you so much, viewers and listeners, for tuning in. Again, this is your teacher host, Teacher Faith Perocho, saying bye-bye!